All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to be looking at ancient Greece. So, remember, Greece is a country, and within countries, there are different groups. And we're going to look at two specific groups, the Spartans and the Athens, and talk about totally different types of people, their mentality, their views of life, and things like that. Total 180, right? They are polar opposites. And that's what this lesson is going to be about, to show you how in one country there's two groups that are completely opposite of one another. Okay. So we're going to analyze the truth about the Spartans. And what I mean by the truth, I know some of you guys may or may not have seen like the movie 300, and you may have seen it and thought like, oh my God, these guys were like this, they were like that. And in reality, yeah, they were to certain aspects, but no, there was complete dramatization done in that movie. So you're gonna find out the truth. Okay, we're gonna compare and contrast the lives of the Spartans and Athens. So you're gonna see both sides and basically see the difference. It's again night and day. And then we're gonna create an argument on why Spartans wouldn't allow citizens to do certain things. Yeah, they were, people talk about, oh, the freedom and things like that. But for their citizens, they had a good control on them, right? And we're going to see what that stuff was later on. All right. All right. So here is your warm up picture. Okay. Now, the question I'm asking you is, what do you think this artist is trying to say about the Spartans? All right. So it says up on top the interior design. So this person who basically designs and uh, makes a house or apartment or whatever look nice, presentable. So based off what you see, what do you think this artist is trying to say about the Spartans? So look at the items inside this room. Look at the condition they're in, and come to a conclusion. Okay. So think about it. Write down your response. Pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So, like I said, the Greeks, had different types of people inside, but there are basically two forms of government that existed inside Greece: democracy and oligarchy. Now, democracy means that the government is ruled by the people or by a lot of people. So if it's not everyone, it's at least a lot of the people that um, inside that country. You know, then you got oligarchy, which means that the government is ruled by few people. Certain amount. Okay, so that's where these two countries come in perfectly. The Athens ran a democracy. They didn't start out that way, but they ended up being a democracy, and you'll find out how that transition went. And then the last one is Spartans. They were a great example of an oligarchy. Okay. And when you guys get to become seniors, you'll learn more about these two more in depth. Okay. But just keep these in the back of your mind up until your senior year. All right. So, Spartan, the word literally means highly self disciplined. And that is no joke. These guys were self disciplined. They made sure that they didn't want much, they were very focused, because again, they had to know who they were and be able to know, like, okay, this is my weakness. I need to fix that. So that's no longer my weakness. They always had to self evaluate themselves. And yes, just like the movie, if you see up on the top picture, if you ever saw that movie like that, yeah, they were a military group. Boys, when they're very young, were trained in military tactics, how to fight with swords, hand to hand combat, how to fight in a group, so that they knew, boom, 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 this is, the way he's going to go this way, I'm going to go this way, this guy's going to go this way. And they just smoothly attacked. Okay. Now, at the age of 20, they had to serve in the regular army, became mandatory. that every male serve in the military. Now, here's this little fun, interesting thing. Even though the males could marry, they could get married, they had to stay at the barracks till they were 30 years old. So, yeah, you can get married at 18, 20, whatever. You can marry this beautiful woman, this and that, they're going to have a home. But at nighttime, you had to come back and basically live in the barracks until you were 30. You know, I'll be explaining more stuff in the TikTok because there are certain things that people think about the Spartans, especially people who are very political, and they are totally wrong. And this whole thing about staying in the barracks is one of those things. Now, the women, they had the most freedom amongst all the other women in Greece. Okay, the Spartan life for them was pretty well because the thing is they were able to do certain things and stuff like that, but they also had a big responsibility. One of their biggest jobs was to uphold the Spartan values and basically expect their sons and husbands to be brave in battle and make sure they're carrying out the Spartan ways. So they kept the standard way up here that, hey, no, 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 you don't do that. That's not the Spartan way. you know. So they made sure that their men and their sons were at top tier level at all times, especially when there was battles going on. Now, in the movie 300, you see that King Leonidas was the one and only king. Thing is, actually, there were two kings who led the armies through campaigns and fighting and stuff like that. At home, there were five men, and I'm sure I'm gonna kill this name. I, I think it's pronounced Ephors. And these guys were elected every year, and their responsibility was a two-part thing. One, they had to educate the youth, show them how to fight. This is the proper way to fight with the sword, things like that. And then they had to basically be the policemen for the Spartan people. So they conducted the how the lives were for all citizens. Made sure that things were nice and tidy, and if there was bickering, hey, you know, solve that problem. Then comes the Council of Elders, where the two kings and 28 males who were over the age of 60 would basically decide on issues. So let's say somebody bought something from a vendor, you know, and they were like, this guy sold me some um, bad stuff, some, fruits that he knew was rotten. They would basically go before the Council of Elders, state their case, and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all they did. And the thing is, you would think like, well, I want to share my argument. A lot of you guys want to explain stuff and things like that. Really break it down so the other side knows what you're talking about. Someone did you wrong. The Council of Elders were just like, no, we're not going to debate this. You tell me your side. You tell me your side. That's it. Boom. No more discussing. No more. Oh, but they did this. No, no, no. You stated your case. You stated your case. Now we're gonna vote on it. And what our vote says, that's it. So if you don't like it, and you're like, well, I want you. You didn't hear this part. Tough luck. That's not what we're here for. To hear your debates and hear the extra little bits of details and some of that. We don't care. The crux of the matter is you say they sold you bad stuff. You say you didn't. Let us see it. Okay. Yes or no. Okay. The Spartans also were a group that didn't have many allies. They didn't really, you know, talk to invite other people over, stuff like that. Other, you know, civilizations. No, they kept to themselves. They didn't really want friends, you know. And also, citizens were not allowed to travel. You stayed within the Spartan territory, you know. And also, this is another thing too that's really, really like wow. As much as people like to talk about the Spartans being about freedom and things like that, no, they didn't allow their citizens to study philosophy, read basically books from other places, and even art. Let me move that. There we go. and they didn't even allow them to do some artwork. So some of you guys who might be doodling on the worksheet or on your folder, even something as simple as that could be seen as art, and that was a no-no in the Spartan values. You don't do that. What are you talking about? What are you doing that for? Just wanted to, doodle something, just draw something. None of that stuff. The only thing they could study was war tactics, fighting styles, things like that. That's it. So let's go to Athens. Now, like I told you guys at the very beginning, Athens was a great example of democracy, but they didn't start out that way. They were actually ruled by a king. And later on, it was aristocrats, these guys who owned like the best land, who were wealthy, and they controlled the politics. Okay. But as time went on, by the 7th century, no surprise, the economy was now in trouble. Why? Because these really rich people, the power, the people who had the best lands and were wealthy, they made sure that things went their way so that they profited and not the poor people. And of course, this leads to economic problems. And things got really, really bad because farmers couldn't pay their debts, so they were sold into slavery. For how long? Well, I guess how long ever the debt was, you know. So it wasn't until this guy you see in the statue here, that's Solon. He was given full power, like, okay, you think you can fix this? Fine. Let's see, you're the leader now. Fix this problem. And he basically looks at everyone and says, okay, those you farmers who have debts, you're cleared. Okay. A lot of farmers like, oh, sweet, thanks. So do we, the poor people are like, so do we get land or what's going to happen? No, you're not going to get land. Yeah, sorry, but your debts are cleared. That's like that old saying: if you give a man, a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you'll feed him a lifetime. Basically, the same thing. They just cleared the debts, but if they would have given them land, then these guys could have farmed that land, grew crops, sold that crops, made some money, and be able to prosper. But they didn't do that. But canceling the debt did help. Okay, so then years later, this guy, Clythenes, and I had to put the pronunciation there because I always kill his name, he came into power and he was a reformer. A reformer is a person who basically wants to change things within the government, stuff like that. So basically, he says, you know what? This whole thing with the aristocrats, just a small group and all that, no, we need to change that. So he created a council of 500 supervisors. These guys were going to be looking at like what's best for the country, and they looked over things like foreign affairs. How are they going to get along with other countries and, write treaties and agreements with other places? They oversaw the treasury, made sure that the country had money, wasn't wasting it on stupid things, and proposed laws that were voted by the assembly. So it wasn't just one person or a group, a handful of people going, we need a law to make rich people richer, you know. So yeah. The thing is though, unlike the Spartans, only males could vote. Okay. And they could only vote after they had an open and free debate. Now, what does that mean? That basically means everyone had a chance to speak. Okay. It wasn't just like, here's this problem. Let's get the Spartans. Let's hear your side. That's it. Okay. No, they let everybody who wanted to chime in and speak their mind. Hey, fine, come on in. Tell us what you think. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? What's the best solution? Why don't you think this solution is better? Why do you think this solution is better than this one? And once everyone had their piece, then they would vote. And this is the foundation of democracy: getting people involved, who may or may not be affected, but still, everyone has a chance to speak their mind and put their 2 cents in what they believe would be great for the country. Now, this guy in the statue, that's Pericles, and he was a real dominant figure when it comes to the Athens politics and Athens history. Um, so one of the biggest things he expanded the territory, and it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna take down this place and we're gonna just really destroy this place like the Spartans. We're gonna win it through war. Some of the times they won territory was through influence. Their culture and their beliefs and some of that made other people go, you know what, that's not a bad idea. I think we should probably join Athens because it seems like they have you know things in order, and that sounds great. You know, so the time around 461 to 429 BC was known as the Age of Pericles. Okay, now, excuse me. At the same time, people were becoming very involved with the democracy. People were like, "Yeah, I like being able to talk about what I think about a certain situation. I like to talk about what I believe the government should or shouldn't be doing." And direct democracy became very popular. Now, what is direct democracy? If you're taking the government class, you should already know this. But for those of you guys who are sophomores, um, direct democracy basically allows the person to directly be involved. Meaning, let's say in this country, there's a vote of should we go to war with this other country? You, particularly you, as a citizen, could cast your vote and say yes or no. Okay. So instead of like how we have it right now, where a representative represents everyone in your county, over in Washington, that says, you know what, in my district, my people believe we should go to war. So that one person talks for anywhere from a couple hundred to, I mean, several thousand, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So that's a representative. But direct is when you personally go and vote. Okay. Now, Pericles made it possible for poor citizens to take part in public affairs. Remember, before it was just like, yeah, you're poor, you're nobody. The aristocrats, the rich people, we should decide. He says, no, no, no. The poor people are more affected by public things, laws, and some of that than the rich people. So they should have a say so in what happens in our country. He also made lowering the class for males to be eligible to vote. So again, you didn't have to own land or have this much money. No, basically, if you were, more likely like born into the country, you participated in the democracy, direct democracy. You you had some type of job, stability. Then yeah, you could vote. you know. And also, they paid their public officials, the office holders. They actually paid them, whereas before it was seen as like that's your duty, and that's why a lot of those guys were corrupt in the sense that they're like, well, I'm not getting paid, so I'm going to make sure that I do get paid, get money somehow. So I'm going to make laws to make sure things go well for me. Where now is, hey, you're getting paid, so make the lives of these people better, or else you're gone. Okay. So here's my question to you. Why do you think the Spartans didn't allow their people to read sorry about that, philosophy from the Greeks, literature, books from other countries, or even just to express themselves through art? Why do you think that? And if that question's kind of hard for you, then go to the second one, the second half of it, and maybe that'll you'll be able to explain it better. Do you think their culture would have changed if that was allowed? Do you think they would have changed from military might and focus and stuff of that? Or do you think when as if they introduced philosophy, literature, art, do you think their culture would have been a little bit more softer, not as, focused? What do you think? Now, if you see at the bottom, there is no writing prompt. Yeah, because I want to see how well you can write your own sentence now. Okay, like I told you at the beginning, every so often I won't put a writing prompt because I want to see how well you can write, start a sentence, things like that. So you should not start off with yes, because it's good. No, okay? Because if you don't read the question, You just read your response. What was the question? You have no idea. Okay, so make sure you're actually responding to the question in complete sentence. Okay, so think about it, write your response. Once you're finished, you're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, I'm gonna be putting some more stuff on TikTok about the Spartans, okay, about how life really was, and compared to what the movies and stuff like that showed, or even what mainstream culture nowadays says. Oh no, the Spartans were like this. In reality, no. Okay, so you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later, okay?